let's get started. I'm here with Chio, longtime best friend. We've known each other since literally day one, class one at Trinity. So we go. So what has this experience been like for you being in lockdown?
Well, everyone says, it's a new normal and, all these catchphrases. And the way that I would describe it is it's become a very digital world for me, I guess, which we were already kind of a part of before. I mean, people were very savvy with their phones and a lot of people would communicate and stay in contact with people through this means. But, having work completely shift for many weeks to just me working from home and online was hard. Here I am, trying to work from home, and then that line between your work and your home is blurred. But then when those two worlds converge and become one, it really becomes a challenge to kind of have that separation mentally. So I just found myself really exhausted after the end of a long day, not just because of the amount of work that I have, but also just because I didn't really leave this one space, right? Mm-hmm. To kind of go somewhere else or walk around. And so I think that's been the hardest for me with COVID-19.
Yeah. That's something, let's dig into that because your job is very, very interesting. So you work with Mayor Nirenberg here in San Antonio. And I remember some of the days that I would just call you on the phone and you would tell me some of the things that you're having to deal with. So just explain a little bit for anyone watching this, what you do, what your position entails.
Sure. Well, at the city, I work as the head of constituent services for the office with the mayor. And so what that means is basically just services to the community, services to residents. It's very customer service oriented in some ways, but in other ways it's not. So a lot of what it entails is, a lot of correspondence that we get, be it letters or emails, right? We want to make sure that we get back to everyone and that the office is responsive, that people feel heard, that people feel comfortable, sharing their opinions or asking questions to the mayor. And maybe if we don't have the answer or we're not the right place for them to bring their problem to us, we try to at least direct them to the right department or the right person or the right organization so that they can get that assistance, so that they can get that kind of help. It has completely shifted from I need help with this pothole or I need help with this city service to I am on the brink of homelessness, or I don't know how I'm going to pay rent next month, or, I'm in a precarious situation at home, right? And I need to get out of here and all of that. So it's completely shifted to more poignant challenges and problems and issues. And I've had to really make sure that I read up on everything that's happening because I need to have the best source of information available, and I need to have all the facts, and I need to understand all the different iterations of the work home stay at home order, on the stay home work safe order, because there's been so many changes, and then with the governor too coming with his own guidelines and things like that, we need to remember, right, the state supersedes local gov.
Okay. Yeah. What kinds of things have people been coming to you with?
People need help applying for rental assistance and things like that, because we have a risk mitigation fund here in San Antonio that the mayor and the council passed. And so there are funds to help people with utilities, with mortgage payments, with groceries. You have to apply, right, through this fair housing program with Neighborhood and Housing Services Department at the city. And so it's guiding people and also just information, making sure people know what's out there, what resources are there to help them. So a lot of rental issues and evictions, people have a lot of questions about evictions, and there is a moratorium, but people still have to pay what they owe even though they won't be evicted. That adds up, right? So even though there is that assistance, people are still very vulnerable, and people that find themselves in poverty or they live in lower income zip codes, COVID has just exacerbated their life circumstances, their situations. And so the mayor has said this many times, that COVID has brought to light a lot of equity issues in San Antonio, be it the digital divide, which means, right, children in schools that maybe don't have internet access or computers to continue to do this work remotely. And so it's not just that, but it's also the housing disparities and the low income disparities and people living in food deserts, right? That maybe you're not close to an HEB and you're just going to convenience stores and the food there isn't maybe as healthy or there isn't that much produce. So it's like all these issues and all these challenges that San Antonio was already working on, trying to solve, be it transit too, for example. But COVID has really brought them to the top. It's made everything more dire. It's made everything more poignant. If you look at statistics as well, you'll see that ever since COVID started, and this is a global issue, it's not just an issue here in San Antonio, there has been an 18% increase in domestic violence calls with the San Antonio Police Department. And there are articles that have been written about that. And so because people are confined to certain spaces and they can't go out anymore, people that maybe already had a difficult family life are really suffering. But the city tries to remind people, right, that there are resources out there, they're not alone, and those resources haven't gone away just because of the virus. But I will say, like, regardless of anyone's political stance, I honestly, I feel so honored and proud to work for an elected official that is looking at data and science and the facts, and that is looking at saving lives versus profit.
Mm-hmm. Is there an anecdote, of course, you know, protecting anyone's identity, but is there an anecdote, like a moment or a conversation that you had with a member of the community that really stood out to you during this time?
Oh, yes, there's many. I will say a call that did move me is a man did call at some point, just kind of upset. He was upset that people were not wearing masks in the grocery store. And this was before there was a mandate to have masks be required in the community. That also is no longer the case because the governor order, the recent one, it supersedes local level. So now, you know, people can't be fined for this, but we're still encouraging people to wear masks. But at the time, this was before like elected officials had come out to say, oh, like we're mandating a mask. It was just like getting there, right? But people were encouraging residents to wear them everywhere, and including HEB. And so this man just kind of called and he was upset, and his feelings were misguided. He just needed to be upset at someone, at something, and it was coming to us, right? Which is fine, it makes sense. And he was just very agitated and very upset that he saw people not wearing masks, and how is this possible, and what can the city do to like change this, and da-da-da-da-da. And he was very upset. But then when I kind of leveled with him and I said, sir, I agree, this is an issue. We've told people, right, that this is what they must do, but it is very hard to enforce. We're just trying, we're hoping, we're trusting in the population to follow these guidelines, to follow these suggestions, these rules, and, you know, just spread the word and remind people around you to follow them. And then that's when he kind of broke down and he apologized. And he said, I'm sorry that I was upset at you. It's just that my son is an essential worker. He works, you know, he works in the fire department, and my wife, she's a nurse. And so they're both kind of out there, and I'm just afraid for them. I'm afraid for their life. I don't want them to get the virus and succumb to the virus. And he was just afraid, and he broke down on the phone and he cried with me. You know, it was hard for me to keep it together, but I kept it together. You know, I tried to be strong for this stranger who was just calling to get a sense of hope, you know, or tranquility. And so I just tried to do my best. So my role is interesting. Like, you know, you never know what kind of call you're going to get. And the key is, even if someone is upset or sad or angry, to just be professional and have compassion and just listen. And that's hard. You know, it's not easy, but I've found that having that attitude towards the phone calls or the emails or anything like that really can make a world of a difference, or at least make someone feel heard and that you care.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's really important. I'm glad you shared that story, because I think, you know, that's kind of the whole heart of this project, is just reminding people that there are real stories, like real people being affected by this pandemic, and like no one's exempt. I mean, it's a global pandemic, so no one's exempt by the fallout from everything that's happened to our communities, our economy, our schools, you know, because of this lockdown. And so that's a really powerful story. You know, uncertainty is a very, I mean, you feel powerless, you feel out of control, and that can be a really, create a very unstable environment for a lot of people, mentally. And so what are some of the things that you've been doing to prioritize your mental health and kind of compartment, or maybe how do you compartmentalize some of these stories that you hear?
I think there's a really cool podcast that my pastor sent me, actually. He actually called me a few days ago, and it just really made my day because it made me feel that, it made me feel cared for in a way, like with the community at my church that I attend. And the podcast he sent was for people that are maybe a leader right now or on the front lines of this issue, right? On any issue, on a crisis. But it was COVID related, obviously, when it came out. And it's 4 ways to flourish in the midst of chaos, the emotionally healthy leader. And so I listened to it, and honestly, it has some really great tidbits, some really great advice, including how it's important before you can really take care of someone else, you need to make sure that you're good and that you're taking time for yourself, and you need to detach, right? I'm really busy anyway with schoolwork. That's another stressor, but I'm in the middle of finals. So I'm also trying to get that out of the way and finish my semester strong and just pass with good grades and get it done.
Right.
So I've had that extra layer of stress. And so even though I do have to read for school, I have made time to read for pleasure. Right now I'm reading To Obama with Love, Joy, and Hope. And it helped me a lot because it's about the Office of Presidential Correspondence and what they do when people write to the president.
Oh, yeah.
President, and it just talks about the Obama administration and how seriously they took constituent calls, constituent letters, constituent emails. And Obama, he would answer 10 letters a day. He would read 10 letters a day. And he would answer some of them by hand or, direct his staff to draft a specific response to the problem, right? And it's just been so helpful because, okay, even though it's not about COVID, like it's about a lot of really hard issues that people are going through in America or that we're going through. It was like about going through a financial crisis when Obama came in and people losing their homes and like all these things and how Obama was responding to those letters. And it's like kind of like a deja vu a little bit with at least the economy part, right? Where people are struggling too with rent and homes and what's happening to my job. And so it's honestly been a breath of fresh air to read this. It's motivated me a little bit. It's inspired me. Or I'll go on a bike ride for like an hour and I just let all the stress out and I feel really great after I finish a bike ride. So those things have really, really helped, I would say. Those are my top things.
Yeah. One more question I have is, what message of encouragement do you want to share with anyone watching this?
The question of the moment. COVID sucks, don't get me wrong, but I think it's also brought people together and it has made us reach out to a lot of people that maybe we had lost touch with a little bit. But I just had a neighbor that moved in not too long ago and we've become super close. Like, I don't think that we would have become that close right away had it not been for COVID, and we just check up on each other. I'll text her and she'll text me like, hey, how are you holding up? How are you today? And just waving to people and saying hello and how are you? And I feel like, yes, people were always friendly before, they did wave, but now more than ever, people are making more of an effort of, even at a distance, being more present. And so my word of encouragement is related exactly to that in a way. I would say that try to find inspiration related to things around you that you maybe always had around you, but you didn't value.